Hey dudes, and those of you who fit neither category, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a really fantastic new year, but now it's 2020 and it's time to get serious. Recently, I have been taking a really huge interest in the Korean Rainbow Six Siege scene. Why, you might ask? Korea aren't even that good. Well, as somebody who came from an esport where Korea is the dominating region, it's actually quite odd to me to move into an esport that is tactical and aim heavy, two things that Koreans love, and yet Korea isn't a dominating region. EU are, and that's kind of backwards to what I'm used to. So I'm really interested in knowing what it is about the Korean region that they do differently, what it is that makes them not dominating, and I'm really interested in the growth of the region and their kind of potential moving forward. So right now ongoing is the Rainbow Six Korea Open. It started at the end of last year and it will be ongoing until I believe January 11th. So far they've only done the first 2 days of the tournament, and I went and had a look at a couple of the games that were being played, and I wanted to talk about some of the things going on. So there are 5 teams taking part in the Korea Open. 4 of them were invited and 1 of them had to qualify, and that one is Talon Esports. Now, Talon is an org that I'm already familiar with. They had a pretty good year in Overwatch. That's how I was already kind of aware of them, and I knew that they were going to be fielding a Rainbow Six roster by the end of the year. So the fact that they qualified to get into the Korea Open, and this is kind of their time to shine, that's something I'm really interested in, and I wanted to know how they were doing. Now, Talon are actually currently sitting second in the standings of the... Oh, there's a fly. Talon are actually currently sitting second in the standings, so they've been beating out teams like Cloud9, like SCARZ. They're sitting just behind Axiomatic, and since it's a double round robin, that means that they played each team twice, or will be playing each team twice. So I had a look at the 2 series in which they played against Axiomatic, the current champions. Well, they're not champions yet, but they're gonna be. They're actually quite close series. The first one ended 7-5 to Axiomatic. The second one ended 8-7 to Talon. So that's 27 rounds, and I have picked 3 to talk about. That's a 9th. Is that a 9th? 27 divided by 3 equals 9. That's a 9th of the number of rounds that I had a look at from this series. So that's, you know, let's hope it was worth it. But, you know, some of the things that were implemented in these games, kind of interesting, not necessarily the things that are that common to see and what we're used to over in our Western Pro League with EU, NA, and LATAM. And yeah, there were some operators that came up that I'm not too used to seeing. There were certain points that are a little bit more common to see. So I thought it'd be really interesting to see just how Talon are playing and have a couple of examples. So let's go. So the first round that I wanted to look at is round 4 from Cafe Dostoevsky. Round 4 of Cafe Dostoevsky. So Talon played with this really interesting Monty Finger strategy when taking floor 2 bar and cocktail lounge. Talon used an unorthodox strategy in this round, opting for a Montagna and Finka duo, whereby Monty could push up on the site / through the corridor, and Finka would be able to provide the adrenal surge should he require it. This also kept her safe while holding the diffuser. And with Gridlock in the window too, there was a line of sight onto the washroom, so to keep Monty's back safe, which is especially useful given the mute jammers in the washroom, and B, smoke nades at their disposal should they need some cover. Gridlock uses the smokes in the corridor, giving Monty the opportunity to move out the way and let Finka shoot down the corridor, as well as throw an impact. Ash on the anti-roam meant mobile cover was available as it allows her to catch out Maestro, preventing those long lines of sight from across the floor to be taken. However, she does immediately get traded by Valkyrie, who is roaming on the 2nd floor. The Gridlock stingers made it hard for a rotation to be made on the front stairs, which would have led a roamer to come up behind Monty and Finka, with Zafir also positioned there. Kaid, who started off in the washroom, has moved back to the cocktail lounge entrance, which gives Monty and Finka a route through that means they can avoid the Jaeger on the back stairs. Gridlock then swings out and moves across the roof. Jaeger runs up the corridor to try and catch Finka out and provide support to Kaid, but he loses the gunfight. Montagna jumps out of the room in front of Kaid, potentially to assist in shielding Gridlock as she peeks from up the back stairs, but is killed in the process. This is a risky position to be in as Mutant Valkyrie is still downstairs and there's no one anyone and nothing to stop them from coming up the back stairs behind Gridlock. And while Gridlock is able to kill Kaid, this is exactly what happens as Valkyrie kills Gridlock from behind. This entire altercation gives Finka time to try and plant the diffuser uninterrupted. However, Valkyrie is able to stop the plant at the last second. Now this is where Zophia's positioning comes in very useful. Her position on the front stairs has meant that she hasn't been contested, and even now it would be a challenge for the only downstairs enemy, Mute, to come up and contest her. But she also has perfect line of sight through into the washroom where Valkyrie has just rushed in to stop the plant. Valkyrie's priority is to get rid of the player carrying the diffuser, as it would then force Zophia out of her position to take it herself, as well as simply stop Finka from being able to defuse the bomb in the present. So realistically, she can't prioritize countering Zophia, and thus she dies. The only option now is for Mute to come up the stairs and contest, so the two remaining Talon players have the staircases covered, and ultimately Finka is able to thread that needle and bring him down. Alright, the next one I wanted to look at is round 8 in Consulate. And this is a weird one because this was an example where there was some real stupidity from the side of Talon, but they still won the round because things all just fell apart for Axiomatic, and so I thought I had to talk about it. Due to droning, Axiomatic know that there's a bandit and a legion in the garage from the get-go. Talon's choice of bandit is kind of interesting to me. They constantly play bandit on this point, whereas personally, I prefer a Kaid, and I actually did a Twitter poll to see what other people thought, and most people did say that they prefer a Kaid if you had to pick one or the other. Maybe it's a preference thing, I don't know, but they are like bandit standits. After Thatcher uses his EMP on the batteries that have been placed down, Bandit places his final one onto the garage door. Thermite then places his breach charge. It's clear that there aren't any roamers on the ground floor, let alone in Piano, which is intel gained by Thermite as he drones out the room. This tells Jackal that he can go straight in and open the hatch without having to worry about being caught out, preparing it for his allies Zofia and Thatcher to enter in. Even though Thatcher gets shot from below, Zofia is able to breach both the antechamber floor and piano floor to open up sights into the cafeteria and garage and attempt to force the positioning out into Thermite's line of sight from outside the garage, or that of Hibana, who is positioned on the first floor of Yellow Stairs. Bandit does attempt to find Zofia through the floor, and then he makes his stupidest decision. He runs just straight outside of the garage, right into Thermite. Rip. This is a great opportunity for Thermite to breach the second garage door and is able to get a kill onto Legion 2. At this point, it doesn't look too great for Talon as they're 3 versus 4 and the anti-roam presence looks quite strong on the side of Axiomatic versus a much weaker roamer in Tomorrow with 2 anchors left. Thermite has to try and stick behind the white van, however he now has to contest with Maestro's evil eyes, which can see him and the diffuser should Thermite choose to put it down. He chooses to place the diffuser carefully behind the tire, but his foot is still visible to the evil eye and he ends up dying before he can finish his plant. I think at this point he was trying to bank on the fact that the evil eye wouldn't be able to cause enough damage in time, but haha, you were wrong. In the meantime, Diego was able to kill off Zofia, which means the risk of stuns or shots coming in through the ceiling has been greatly minimized and the presence in Piano is now gone. However, he does make the mistake of just running straight out of the staircase into the path of Hibana, who was in the lobby at the time. Cool. At this point, there is such little time left that Axiomatic have now found themselves in a hopeless situation. Not only did Jackal have to try and make his way downstairs with the hope of being able to get a kill or two and pick up the diffuser, but Maestro had already seen his commute down on the evil eyes, so it was pretty easy for him to know when to take his shot and kill Jackal off. That just left Hibana, who was now not only too far away to realistically reach the diffuser, but would also likely be killed on the way there too. Thus, Talon win. Okay, the last round I want to talk about, round 13 of Consulate. Now, this was a Teller's Archives point, and Talon were on the attack. Now, the interesting thing about Teller's Archives for Talon was they only played it on attack, so they played 4 rounds of Teller's Archives, all of which were attack rounds for them. Now, the first 2 rounds of Teller's Archives that they played, they lost. But the second 2 rounds of Teller's Archives that they played, they won. And both of those rounds in which they won were in the overtime rounds. So those were rounds 13 and rounds 15. And they actually won them pretty well. So this round 13 was not the one that won them the entire series, but it was pretty good. Talon figure out pretty early that there are enemies in/near Visa due to Sledge's scouting, so they head up to the top floor, although Thermite nopes the fuck out of there once they find the bomb and instead goes to breach the hatch underneath the Visa stairs, giving him the opportunity to shoot a hole through the wall in front of him. Pulse is below using his sensor to try and figure out where the enemies above him are. It's pretty standard for this point. Legion and Jaeger are both on staircase watch, with Legion positioned in the cafeteria for eyes on the bottom of yellow stairs, and Jaeger at the bottom of spiral, both protecting themselves with goo mines and ADS respectively. In this round, Talon are using intel pretty heavily before they rush into anything, so they have a solid idea of where the defenders are. So on top of the copious droning, they also use an E1D sonar to try and ping the defenders' locations. They find where Pulse is and are able to stun him out, which will give him a brief respite of the time he has to track those above him. This is when Thermite makes the move to plant the diffuser. Doing it in the window, of course, prevents him from being at risk of being C4'd from below. Most of the defensive setup below is in the basement, with Talon being primarily positioned on the first floor to prevent a defender's push or retake. Sledge in the basement provides a threat that keeps Pulse's attention away from what's going on above, as well as allowing him to kill off Castle, and is combined with the E1D, which gives Talon the upper hand on intel. Sledge ends up dying, but it was a martyr's death. It brought enough time that Pulse's rush C4 goes up only after the diffuser has been planted, which forces Axiomatic into a retake situation. Axiomatic have 3 players left, 2 of whom are roamers, and the best equipped to seek out and find the attackers so they can retake, especially with Pulse's help from below. However, a Teller's retake is quite hard, as this means they will have to use the stairways that will be guarded by the 4 remaining attackers. Ash and Thermite are the ones to bring down the roamers, leaving Pulse to attempt to rush up the Visa stairs, being met with some bullets to the face. So those were 3 of the rounds out of the 27 that I looked at that I thought were particularly interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Talon play. I think they've shown that they're pretty good, at least by the standards of the Korean region. I mean, I think Cloud9 are the team that people kind of most associate with like the best Korean team, and Cloud9 are currently sitting in 3rd place behind Axiomatic and Talon respectively. So it kind of puts into perspective this team that have just been picked up, they're just playing. I don't know too much about the history of the players and what their team history is, but as this organization, they're quite new. I think they definitely need a lot of improvements in their attacking. I think there are some messy mistakes that are being done, but I also think there are some solid skills happening on this team, and there are some creative and colorful strategies being used, and I really enjoyed watching these 2 best of 1 series, even if it was quite frustrating at times. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think of the rounds that I showed you, and if I missed anything or whatever. As you guys know, I'm still a little baby when it comes to analyzing Siege, so a lot of this is practice for me, but I'm really interested in continuing making content about the Korean scene and watching it and studying it a little bit more, because I don't know, I'm really interested in it. I think it's a really interesting region. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you very shortly in the next one, and before then, maybe I'll catch you in the Pro League Twitch chat. But for now, bye guys. You ready? This is where we begin. All to talk about 3 rounds.